Okay, lads. Thomas Partey, Fabrizio Romano has said he categorically is leaving. No chance he's going to stay. Bit of context.
What?
So there's been a quote going around that Fabrizio Romano said Thomas Partey will leave. The clip that we just watched, essentially someone suggests he might leave, and he says, "Yep." So it's kind of
Social
a
media.
yeah. This is social media, but they're saying it's a good chance that Arsenal will bring in a new midfielder, and there's supposedly people on the list. So let's have a chat about Partey. Where are we at, kind of individually? Because this is a player who obviously, in terms of cost to output and availability, there's lots of questions. In terms of off-field stuff, there's questions. In terms of the age profile, in terms of there's lots of question marks about him, but there is also undeniably a brilliant player there. George, I'll come to you first. I feel this is going to be dictated by the midfield market. And we just spoke on a podcast, which you can check out on Patreon and YouTube members if you'd like to, about Partey. And I feel this is going to be dictated by quite a flush midfield market of a lot of targets, lots of options and stuff. I feel this might be the summer for Partey to go. Where are you at?
Going to keep this purely football. I feel that you have to do those contacts beforehand. So let's keep it football, please. And so I think when you look at it, you're looking at a player that has not proven his ability to be fit fundamentally. No matter what you can say, I think there's a quality argument and then there's an availability argument. And for the availability, he just doesn't cut it. And you can probably count on him for maybe 5 to 10 games a season. And what is that worth to you? Is that worth 15 million pounds? Is that worth a Champions League final? Is that worth a Premier League final? I think that from a pure quality perspective, you can make the argument that it is. But if you're not looking at a long-term future, if you're looking at options on the market, by the way, that can give you a lot of the pros that Thomas Partey gives you with infinitely more availability for, by the way, the same price. And yes, I'm talking Yusuf Fofana, not to be discreet, who is going for 18 million pounds, and you could probably sell Thomas Partey for a similar amount. Then I think that you've got a perfect market solution if you were looking at not spending any money to replace him with somebody with a lot more reliability. Now, I think the debates with Thomas Partey actually spark a bigger introduction in terms of what you want in your midfield. In terms of, I'm seeing a lot of people insistent on a passing profile in midfield, and that's to complement Declan Rice. And I think part of the problem is we see that Thomas Partey, when fit, is a brilliant partner to Declan Rice when fit. But I think there's a bigger discussion here, lads, and it's, who do you want to partner Declan Rice with? Because I think if Thomas Partey was fit, if to me he represents the perfect profile complement to a Declan Rice. But that's not what we're seeing, by the way, in terms of X. That's not what we're seeing in terms of what many people's insistence on Bruno Guimaraes, João Neves, by the way. These are very different profiles. They're Gundogan with bites. They're passing profiles, passing eights that are ahead of the ball. They're not Thomas Partey. So I would probably ask and flip it on you guys. Where do you see the replacement? Because if we agree that Thomas Partey isn't somebody to take the team forward, which I think everybody in their right mind can agree to, the point is, how do you replace that person? And if
Yeah.
you don't want to just replace it for nothing in the Fofana sense.
I think that is hugely dependent on where you see Declan Rice, but I just want to come sort of circle back to that in a second. I think there's something I've said is sort of in the market this summer that we've got to look at. When we're at the level we're at now, it's very hard to improve our first team, and there are certain positions where we can't. And in Thomas Partey's position at lone six, you could argue it is in the same way it is literally impossible to improve on Declan Rice. Who you can't get Rodri. So you think he's better. You can't get Rodri. You can't get Tchouaméni. So who are you going to? You literally can't improve on him. So when you can't improve that way, you have to improve lower. So the market stuff, the wage availability, you can make a talent argument all you want, but to improve at all, we have to look at other things. So I think this is kind of how we have to approach the market. So for me, those arguments become more and more important this summer. Secondly, yeah, I think this is all massively dependent on how we see Declan Rice moving forward. Basically, where we see him. I think at some point he will go deeper, But I think for the next couple of years, we're going to see Rice in a bit of a kind of hybrid role that we've seen him this season. I think there'll be games where he steps forward into the 8. I think it's going to be games where he steps back. So we need to complement that. I think we need both. I think we need more athleticism, and I think we need a passer. And then it's dependent on how you do it. Can you get that in one player? I'm not sure you can, in terms of to the level that we need it. Do we accept that maybe a kind of a Jorginho can become maybe the passer, maybe plays that a kind of a bigger role, and we go and get the athleticism in an Onana or whatever? Do we ask Martin Odegaard to sort of fill in those things? But I think once Thomas Partey steps out, we basically have 2 questions to fill, is the way I'd frame it, is do we have enough athleticism and do we have a high volume passer? I look at what's on the market this year, and that might dictate what we do. And if we can go and do something cheap for Onana, maybe, but I'm looking at Frankie de Jong. When that level of talent is available, when it could possibly be a complement to a Declan Rice in the way he's going to play in certain games, I think you go and do it. I think we're in a position that it's similar to Man City, where when your squad is kind of at a really good level, you have to take advantage of what's going on in the market. Certain players come up at certain times. Frankie de Jong has come in the same way. Erling Haaland, they waited a year. They literally waited a year for that talent, because they went, okay, this is a once in a generation type talent. We go and do that. I wish we were in the market, when Jude Bellingham was moving, and wish we were at the position we are now, because I'm not saying we necessarily get him, but we'd at least be in the conversation. I think we're in that position now with Frankie de Jong. And for me, I think that may not solve the athleticism problem in our midfield, but it certainly solves another issue, and I'm okay to wait on the athleticism issue.
Yeah, I
feel like can't do it. Maybe we can as well.
Yeah,
maybe we can as well.
Yeah, in terms of Arsenal's next step and what I want to see Arsenal become is I want to be more known for our on-ball quality. And I feel like the athleticism and defensive quality is amazing, and we're very good off the ball. But I think the next step, you're right, is the Frankie de Jong profile. Someone that is just so good on the ball that he elevates us to the standard that we can actually go toe to toe with Man City more often. And we have, obviously, in some cases, but I think go above and beyond them, because I feel like we've always been focused on defense first, and we saw it. In terms of defensive stats, we're so good defensively. If we can just change that a little bit and open up the floodgates going forwards, and I know one of the biggest qualities of Thomas Partey is his progressive passing. And that's why, if you ask most fans why Partey starts, they go, okay, his ability to progress the ball. So that's a profile we need for sure. But I feel like next year, the new signing we've got in the first place is Jurriën Timber. And I think he's going to play a massive part in helping that ease that burden on Declan Rice. The fact that Odegaard's dropping deeper and helping that as well. But I feel like whoever we sign as that 6-8 hybrid, I do wonder if it's going to be 1 or 2 midfielders. Because the talk is right now that Arsenal will sign a midfielder. But is that if Partey stays, or is that if Partey goes? Because if it is a matter of 2 midfielders, then I can see Partey leaving. But if it's a case of 1 midfielder, and I wouldn't be surprised if you kept him. I don't think the player wants to leave either. If you're earning £250,000 a week, I don't think he's against being a squad player either. I don't see him a player who wants to start week in, week out. Obviously, he'd like to, but I don't think he's persistent on that. I think he's inclined to stay at Arsenal as well. But on the market itself, I know George keeps saying Yusuf Fofana is an opportunity. I want to upgrade massively. I don't want a potential player to replace, but I want a player that elevates the first team squad in the ceiling. And the only player I see right now, as Alex said, is Frankie de Jong, actual ceiling raise that are like, fans do not get excited about, but he's a quality that you can't look past. In terms of Bruno Guimaraes, I was actually speaking to Ben Jacobs today, and he talks about how that's actually looking like more towards Man City right now, as they're more likely to activate his release clause. So if he is going to Manchester City and we've got other options on the market, I wouldn't be surprised if we looked at the likes of Luiz and stuff like that and Amadou Onana. But Frankie's a player that, look, Barca, there's a lot of uncertainty. I know they got Hansi Flick, but you have to go get him. You have to go get him, because that player, he solves so much of our team.
Do you know what's so annoying? If Thomas Partey is 25 and actually available, and you get Frankie de Jong, you've got the most complete midfield in the entire world. It's so annoying.
Yeah, I think, but part of the problem is Thomas Partey represents 2 squad holes, not 1. He's such a brilliant player that he represents 2 buys, not 1. So when I've been talking about the use of Fofana and the physical, like the midfield needs that. And by the way, it also needs Frankie de Jong. The midfield needs, a ball carrying between the line quality.
Anthony Kroos.
And it also...
and Tchouaméni.
And Luka Modric is free, to be fair.
No, but we do need here, for example, part of the pods, you can't divorce the midfield from saying that we need between the line quality, and we also need physicality as a 6-8. What happens to Declan Rice, by the way? You buy Frankie de Jong and Declan Rice pulls up with a hammy in the middle of the season. Who comes in? Jorginho? Are you guys comfortable with that midfield three? I'm not. So it's a case of you need two buys, and that's why I've always said that they're separate to me. Look, Frankie de Jong, that probably needs another pod for me. I think he's brilliant, but you need to set him up. For me, he's a player that has a quality that you can build around, but that he has enough weaknesses that you have to cover for him.
What do you see them as?
Well, I see him as a free eight. He can't be the one that has any defensive responsibility, and I think he has to be a carrier, a first receiver in build up, by the way. He's brilliant at that in terms of carrying out, but then he needs to have the freedom in the middle and the final third to be able to execute and not be the only creative burden as well. So you need somebody that's equally creative in the final third, that's also a defensive presence behind him to give him that freedom. And then you also have to give him first phase responsibilities and have somebody that's a little bit higher. So you need Declan, and you need another presence in the final third to make him work. And you need an overlap because he's not somebody as a midfielder that's going to go out wide. So you do need somebody that's a little bit more dynamic on the outside for him to thrive. Now, we have things and we can buy things to make that work, but I've just listed 2 or 3 ifs to make it work. And I don't love that when I'm starting to buy 75 million pounds personally. So I have some questions. The between the line quality, guys, I'll throw another name out there. That's 2 years left. And with company going to Bayern, I don't think that screams stability. I don't know what Jamal Musiala is doing. And I don't
He's posting Instagram stories with Kai Havertz. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. But that, for example...
That was what Rice was doing last year with Bukayo Saka.
Yeah.
That's somebody that I think you looking at 2025 could be on the market. João Neves is somebody that I've talked about quite a bit, by the way, on X, and I love him. I think he's a player that's brilliant. He's Gundogan with bite. I think he's one of the best Portuguese exports that we've seen in years, by the way. If you want to spend the money, that is a player that for me is genuinely going to be world class, and I have no doubt about it. But he offers you a little bit more of that Gundogan type profile. So that's a different type of player.
Sure.
And I would argue you could probably buy for Bruno Guimaraes, by the way, who's 100 million pounds. You're looking at the same release clause for João Neves, but I think Benfica could be a little bit more willing to negotiate under their terms, given he's only 19 and had one really stellar season. So you could be looking at a situation where you could buy Fofana and Neves for the price of Bruno Guimaraes. And I know in that scenario, I'm picking the latter.
Yeah.
Let's maybe close this off with this then. Firstly, just quickly, do you think when I was just thinking like someone like a Musiala posting the story with Kai Havertz, he must know about the links.
Of course he does.
I think sometimes we think that players are like just completely oblivious. He must know what he's doing.
If you ever watch a video of any players, like, do you know when you have the barbers, the famous barbers that cut their hair and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they post TikToks and stuff, right?
Yeah,
They're always on their phones, like every second of getting their haircut. So you're thinking, if you're on that phone, your phone that much, you're gonna see all the reports. You're gonna see every single thing. You're gonna search your name up. You're gonna watch all your comps. You're gonna see everything. And I feel like they've got burners. I'll tell you that for a fact. I know they've got some burners. And if I'm a player, I'm searching it all up and I'm seeing what's happening.
Don't you go back to look at your posts? You don't just send a tweet and then leave it. You go and you see, okay, who's commented,
and
what's the
that need is important
like?
as well. Yeah, I think players like being needed. You know, the idea of a club wants me, and all the fans have email comments and DMs saying come to Arsenal. I think they like that, of course.
And they often mention that when they sign. So Jamal, if you're watching, hi mate. Let's finish with this. Not what we would do. Our prediction for what the club is going to do in the midfield in this situation. I'll go first. I feel that Partey is going to leave this summer. That's my prediction. I think the club will sell him, and a Napoli or a Saudi club or something. That I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of options for Partey. I think there's a lot of clubs who would take him, and I think we're going to make one signing. And I think it will be at the base of our midfield. I think it will be from the Premier League. I think it'll be more of an Onana or a Douglas Luiz or something like that. That's a very Arteta thing. I would be shocked, honestly, if Edu went and Arteta went and got a De Jong. I would love that as a fan, but I would be shocked based on their record, based on there's some comments from Edu the other day talking about the sort of 180-page dossiers on players, but he also mentioned that they look for whether they have Premier League experience. I think something like 48% of their signings have come from within the league. They're very league heavy. I think was it last season 3 out of 4 was from within the league as well. So yeah, I just feel they're going to sign a Premier League midfielder, and I'm looking at someone like a Douglas Luiz, I'm looking at an Onana, those types of players, and then I think we go out next year and maybe do that and probably keep Smith Rowe and Vieira around for one more year. But Bhavs, I'll come to you. What's your prediction of what the club will do, not what you do?
Yeah, I feel like you're right. I think Thomas is going. I don't think it's. Thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if he did stay though, because I feel like Arsenal will look into the market first, see who they can sign. If they can't get the player they actually want, I wouldn't be surprised if they kept him. But in terms of replacements themselves, I know in terms of Bruno, I think what Ben said is like Arsenal would have to wait until the end of the market, until his clause gets put to one side to they're going for offers after that. And I don't think Arsenal.
You're right, TK, mate. So let's go.
Yeah, no, he was on my channel yesterday, so I had to ask him some questions about it, and that's why I feel like in terms of replacements, Onana stands out quite a lot. I always feel like Onana's really stood out to me because of the fact that he can play as a 6 and as an 8, and he's got that.
He looked really good.
Yeah, he's got that dual winning capacity. He reminds me a bit of Paul Pogba in the way he strides with the ball, and I like that. And he's got defensive work rate as well. You don't play for Sean Dyche if you don't have defensive work rate. And looking at Everton themselves and the fact that they might need to make a sale as well, I wouldn't be surprised if we went for Onana. He's a player we wanted in January. So yeah, I feel like Partey will leave. We'll sign one player, but I want two. Ideally, I want two because next year I want no excuses. But look, George might be right. We might have a midfielder who's playing a left back right now who can play as an 8.
George, not what you would do, what you think the club will do.
Yeah, I think the club right now is debating whether or not they want to have a marquee central midfielder window or a marquee forward window. And I don't think that you can have both. And I think that's part of the budget calculations. And I think the way that the market is moving, there's a lot less marquee central midfielders available. And I think that if you're going to take away from Bruno, I really am with you in terms of the league requirement. I do believe that the league point is important for Arteta. And I think he looks at midfield as something that he doesn't want to gamble on. And so therefore he's going to look at something he knows and trusts. And I think that Amadou Onana is going to be the best physical presence replacement for Thomas Partey. And what we'll lose between the Lions or we don't have is going to have to come from his squad management of players that he refuses to play.
Wanyeri, Smith Rowe, Vieira. Yeah.
Which I think those need to sell.
Could you imagine next year
before you're looking at the next?
Well, he's been promoted to the first team. So, like
I would have been shocked, because we've seen it with PSG and stuff, haven't we? Where they were, Zion Emery was 17, he's in the first team, was 16 actually. Yeah. So we're seeing it more often. Even
you're talking to the team that first did Miles. You're talking to the team that did Cesc Fabregas to replace the Invincibles. Yeah. I think Arsenal have a heritage for allowing youth to come in and start, if any club in the world do. So, and I just think that there's a collection of 8s ahead of the ball that we need to make decisions on before we can start to really put marquee money into that position.
Arsenal heritage. You want more real? I'll give you real. Otamendi. Kevin De Bruyne, Sterling,
Otamendi,
Silva. We take De Bruyne, won't we? We take it. Actually, would okay. Final question, and people are going to be so annoyed in the comments. Would you take De Bruyne? As in on a 5-year deal is what I'm saying.
Of course I would.
On a 5-year deal,
it depends on his contract. As in, I'd take him with Arsenal. I don't know about 5 years. I know definitely would give him 5 years, but
you take Kevin De Bruyne. I'm not saying you, but as in we have to sign him 5-year deal, etc., etc.
Yeah, we'll get him for a year and send him to Saudi Arabia.
Okay, lads, pleasure. If you want to check out, we did a keep sell loan on our Patreon, which you can sign up for a 7-day free trial, and also for YouTube members as well. We're also got another exclusive pod for patrons and YouTube members out on Saturday, but you can also check out the podcast we did on Monday, talking about, what did we talk about? Rashford. I think we spoke about Rashford at one point as well. I think we did speak about Rashford as well. So at some point we spoke about Rashford.
Did we talk about Rashford? We talked about Rashford.
No, yeah, we did. So you can check that out. But
you can only find that for the podcast.
You'll find out. Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast, and we will see you very soon. Peace.
Peace.
Like, subscribe. Peace.
Oh, like and subscribe, and peace.